leadership because I grew up seeing all different kinds of leadership. I saw drug dealers that were leaders that
Uh-huh.
could inspire and motivate people and could get them, and then I've had people with multiple degrees and PhDs that can't lead to save their life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it gets to a point where you want to carve out what does leadership actually mean to you and what makes a good leader. And I think there's a lot of things that play into that. I think, being having empathy is a really good leadership characteristic. I think being able to motivate and inspire people, I think being able to protect people, being able to guide them and mentor them are all characteristics of a good leader. But I think that leadership oftentimes is confused with titles and with people that are in charge, and that doesn't necessarily make a great leader.
Facts. That is facts. Matter of fact, I will say this. I have had a lot of conversations with my son, which has been such a blessing for me as I've watched him grow up and go and transition through different jobs and now into what has now become his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had different people that were in management and or leadership roles for him throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I have people in my life that have been both. They knew how to manage a staff, but they also led by example. Therefore, I consider them a leader. And I've had people that were just managers. That's all they focused on was the numbers. And really, honestly, they checked boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had people that were leaders, but had absolutely no idea on how to manage personnel and how to deal with the different conflicts that might take place.
Mm-hmm.
And you only have control over yourself, right? You don't have control over these other people. So the one thing that I always tried to encourage him to do was to just stay consistent in who you are, right? Be who you are regardless, because not everybody's going to like you. Not everything is always going to be perfect, but you know who you are. And you're always going to be, bringing 100% of that to the table each and every time, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult. I know in my past I've had people that were absolutely not leaders because I'm a little bit of both my mom and my dad. My dad is very chill. My mom is a firecracker. People from different walks of life with different personalities still deal with the same things that you deal with, just in their own
Oh
work.
yeah.
I will ask you this question, which is not even one that I have on my list. When you are what type of room do you like to be in? Do you like to be in a room where you are surrounded by people that are like super smart and knowledgeable in their field? I personally like to be around people that are maybe smarter than me. I don't
Yeah.
always considered myself a sponge. And just in our brief conversations, that is exactly the type of woman that you seem to be to me. Am I off
Yeah.
on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely a sponge. I think that for me, I've always really admired and respected people that know more than what I know. I feel like I was blessed enough to be around people, even growing up the way that I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
that knew more than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way to grow and learn. I have been in situations where I've been around people who I don't feel know as much as me. And that's not, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But if I'm in a job or a work environment, I want to be around people who are going to teach me something, who are going to take me to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't grow and develop when you have people that are not as smart or as talented or as bright as you.
Yep.
And that might sound very controversial, but people like me get inspired by people who are smarter than me. I'm attracted to, even in the men I like, right? I like nerds. I like brains. I'm attracted to intelligence. And so for me, I like to be around people that know more than me when I hire people. I like to hire people that have better skills than I have. I think sometimes that can be intimidating for managers. As a leader, it's not intimidating because you are putting people in place that know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
that can teach you a thing or two,
Mm-hmm.
and that are gonna, that what do they say? The rising tide floats all boats. When you
Yep.
surround yourself with people that know more than you, that you can learn from, you're only going to benefit and grow from that. And so
Yes.
those are the environments that I prefer.
He was in the same industry since 1999, so a
Mhm.
very long time, and in different areas or silos of that industry. Because again, I've always said that I am like a sponge, and the more I learn, the better I feel I can offer as a well-rounded
Mhm.
employee or manager or leader or whatever, in whatever role I am in. Right, Diana, you and I are gonna have to talk after this podcast for sure. I feel like I've made a connection that's going to last for a very long time. Oh, and by the way, if you are watching this, thank you for being here with us. You are here with Diana Lauritson and myself. D, we are on Unapologetically D. And why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? I'll give you a couple of seconds. Hit it, hit it, hit it. Share, comments, love, spread, all the things so we can keep on doing this. And applying for jobs and things, it's just different. It's just
Oh
different
yeah.
what it was. There's AI that's out there. So you're not
Mhm.
even necessarily getting to a person when you submit your resume. It might be like kicked to the curb because it didn't have certain keywords or whatever the case might be.
Yep.
So, and plus, to be quite honest with you, Diana, I do not look like 99.999% of the people in the industry that I come from in
Mhm.
this area.
Yep.
So,
Mm.
so when we talk about leadership and kind of just how people do things and how they operate in the world, the professional or business setting nowadays, it's
Hmm.
just very, very different. It's very, very different, you know? And so I'm really trying to fully embrace this chapter because
Yeah,
I'm saying like this conversation that you and I are having is like the timing couldn't be any better. And I really truly feel like there's a lot that I can learn. And like I just really like the connection and I'm excited to continue the conversation. So
yeah.
um talk before we talk about a moment in your career, let's talk
Hmm.
a little bit more about your career. You mentioned that you
Sure.
work for one of the largest legal firms. So what is your actual job? What do you
Yeah, so my actual job is I work in business development at a global law firm, and my job is to really help the firm bring to grow revenue,
mm,
to nurture client relationships, to coach the lawyers, to work on business plans, manage budgets, all of the things. But the main goal is to help the lawyers and support them to pitch to get new business, and from all different kinds of clients. And it's a really interesting industry because most people in my industry do not look like me. They don't have braids, they're not people of color. You don't see a lot of women that look like me in my industry. And that was one of the biggest things that I noticed when I got into this industry because I came from working in government relations and public affairs. I was a
oh,
political science major. I worked
mm,
for the mayor, and then I worked in state and federal politics and international politics. And I got into the law firm, business very by chance. My second master's degree is from a law school. And so I am, comfortable doing mediations and arbitrations and things like that. But I don't do any of that in my day-to-day job other than really using those skills to deal with very difficult lawyer personalities. And
okay.
so, yeah, so in my role, I've learned that I feel like I have a responsibility in a way
Mhm,
because I'm really big into DEI. I'm
okay.
really big into bringing others up with me.
Mm,
I try to hire in a way that is as broad and open as possible,
mhm,
to let all kinds of diverse candidates be, considered.
mhm.
And I think it's really important to open doors for people and to be voices for them in rooms that they're not invited into,
Yeah.
because I didn't have that for me. And
Mhm,
so I feel this kind of immense pressure
mhm,
to perform in that way and to open doors and help other people elevate in their careers as well.
mhm. And you know, you are in the DC area.
Hmm.
So that is just really, really interesting to me when you tell me that there are not a lot of people that look like you. Because
Hmm.
in my brain, from Seattle, I've been back to the Maryland, DC area many, many
Yep.
years ago, but I was in a very specific area. However, what I did see seemed very diverse. But what that goes to prove is that I don't think it necessarily matters what part of the country that you are in.
Hmm.
Certain people or groups of people might navigate to certain professions. And,
Yeah.
and there's certain professions that they're like, no, I'm not, you know.
Hmm.
I ended up in mine by chance.
Yeah.
I had my son when I was very young, and I did end up going to take some courses in college, but I did not get everything was on the job training, and so things just looked really, really different for me. I landed in that role because I honestly went in the newspaper and highlighted and just was good with people.
Hmm.
And I was able to, I was really good at organizing and keeping on
Yeah.
task. And I just let my personality shine through. And that's what took me all of the years is because, like I said, being a sponge, I think says a lot about a person because
Hmm.
you can teach people a lot, but if they don't have the willingness to be taught, it really honestly doesn't matter. And that extends far past, you know, I mean, it goes into sports and everything, you know.
Hmm.
People sometimes are born with certain skills. Absolutely. Some people are really good at taking tests. I'm not one of them. But you can teach people skills on
Yeah.
how to get better at doing things like that. So, okay, so we talked about your career. So,
Hmm.
was there a moment early in your career where you realized that you were like, you know, I just don't really quite fit this
Yeah.
traditional mold?
Yeah. There were a few moments. I remember one moment, I had moved to DC. I had been living in Arizona for 9 years. I moved to DC, and the firm that I was hired to work at was based out of Philadelphia, and literally my first week there, or second week, I had to go to the New York office. And so I walked into the New York office, and I remember I was in a conference room and I was by myself, and I looked outside and I saw the view, and I looked around and I was like, what the hell am I doing here? How did I get here? How am I even here right now?
Yeah,
Literally, 8 years ago, I was in juvenile detention, or not 10 years ago,
yeah.
I was in juvenile detention. And now here I am in New York in this office, this amazing view at this really reputable firm. What am I doing here? And
Mhm.
so the imposter syndrome was real. Like I
Oh, yeah.
really had to, step back for a moment and collect myself and think, you know what? You deserve to be here. You are here for a reason. They hired you. This
Yes.
is what you're here to do. But I always reflect back on that moment. It always stands out to me because I remember how real the situation felt and how un, I won't say unprepared, but just like I was unprepared for what the magnitude of the situation was going to feel like at the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
then going from there and then leading the meeting and really getting these lawyers to talk about their practices and their business plans and what our next steps were going to be and how we were going to grow the business and
Mhm.
things like that really, I started feeling like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. I'm supposed to be here.
Mhm.
And so that was definitely a pivotal moment for me. And then another moment for me was actually, I would say it's a mix of many moments where I've worked in places where I felt like I have more experience than my boss. I have more education than my boss.
Mhm.
Um, and I have a lower title
Mhm.
and I am not given the respect that I feel like I deserve in my role.
Mhm.
And I also know that because I have more education and experience than my boss feels somewhat threatened by me. And that's part of, because of my network. It's part
Mhm.
of, just being in a place where, I had to learn that the people who have the titles are not always people that are smarter and wiser and everything than you are, or
Mhm.
can even necessarily do the job better than you. There are so many other factors that go into leading and go into job titles
Yeah.
and what we can control, right?
Yep.
And that's who you know, your influence, your leverage, your
Yep.
understanding of office politics and how
Mhm.
to navigate them. All of these things contribute to who's in charge. And
Yep.
so I had to learn how to play the game. And I
Yep.
had to learn that these systems are not designed for us to succeed. These
Yeah.
systems are designed so that the company succeeds.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you're just a cog in a wheel. And so you have to figure out how can you dig within yourself and find that inner power and
Mhm.
find out like what can I contribute to this? What value do I bring? And you have to know it and own it. And I
Mhm.
didn't always know it and I didn't always own it.
Mhm.
And the more, seasoned I become, the
Mhm.
more I understand how to navigate those politics and how to feel more accepted or not necessarily accepted, but feel more comfortable in rooms where I wasn't sure that I fit before.
Yes. Yes. I mean, all the things that you are hitting on everything. Easy to look at somebody's credentials and say, "Oh, she looks like she might have more experience than me. She looks like she maybe might want to have my job."
Hmm.
She does not look like the person that is leaving the role. None of the people look like how I look. Now, if you want to keep that business rolling and not, shake up the apple cart, you want to slide somebody into the role that kind of fits into that mold,
Hmm.
right? And if I am not that person, again, systems that are not built to benefit myself, they're built to make sure that that company continues to make revenue, continues to make
Yep.
money. And however which way they need to do it, they don't want to shake it up too much. But like you said, as you learn more through the situations that you are, you know, have to deal with throughout your life, you are able to, I don't know, deal with things better. Look at
Yeah.
things from a different perspective, right? And
Yep.
I look at everything as a learning situation because again, nothing happens by chance. And it just, I think what it does for me personally is it proves that I just need to continue pushing forward and leaning into this new chapter of my life. When I'm faced with things that might seem difficult, I just don't beat myself up over it.
Yeah.
I just do not beat myself up over it. And again, I try to surround myself with individuals where I can continuously learn. And that's why I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. So, uh,
Awesome.
okay, we do have to move on to something. Like Diana, I said I could talk so much. I talk so much, and I find myself getting stuck in certain areas. And I'm like,
Good thing you have a podcast.
yeah, and I'm like looking at my phone and I'm like, girl, you're supposed to be done in 12 minutes. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I have to unfortunately put you on the spot and say, Diana, would you mind coming back for a part two of this?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
there are so many more things that I want to talk to you about. But what I would like to do is focus the last like 10 minutes on some maybe some encouraging words
Sure.
for people out there. And I want to ask you this one because we talked about a moment early on in your career.
Hmm.
We also talked about your life and the things that you were exposed to,
Hmm.
your relationship, the stuff that you saw with your dad, your mom, and her mental illness, which mental health is a huge thing for me, not only because of the fact that I have people that are close to me that deal with different types of mental illness, but I myself have like anxiety
Hmm. So do I. Yep.
and depression. And it's like you really have to fight through those things. You
Oh
really have to
yeah.
say, you know what? I am worth it. I am worth it. And
Yep.
whatever it is that I need to do, I'm going to do that. So the younger Diana, the
Hmm.
Diana that fought tooth and nail to make sure that she was okay, the Diana that had to walk around throughout the night because you didn't have a place to lay your head down.
Hmm.
That Diana. Did you think that success for you was going to look different today? Like, what did the word success even look or sound like to you back then?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I always had big dreams when I was younger. I thought I was going to be a singer. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to do this or that. I always had big dreams.
Mhm.
I wasn't always sure how I was going to get there. And I think the Diana from, you know, so many years ago would look at the Diana now and think, wow, your definition of success is so different than what mine is. At the time, back in the day, for me, success meant stability. It
Mhm.
meant security. It
Mhm.
meant having a stable place to go that I could sleep at and that I could live in and thrive. And it meant going to school and, being able to be with my friends, not having to be embarrassed about not being able to afford all the clothes and all the things. It just meant something very different than it means to me now. Now that I'm older, I've learned that success takes so many different forms. What is success for me is not the same as it is for my sisters,
Mhm.
right? And so I had to learn, like, it's not just about this level that you achieve, it's about the journey. And I've always been told, because I was so goal oriented, because I was like, I'm going to get out of this life. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I've had so many bosses and mentors and people that say, Diana, you never slow down and enjoy the journey. And I'm like, because I don't like the journey. I just like to get from point A to point B and point C. I just
Yeah.
want to get to the destination and be done. I want to do this degree and be done. I want to do this. And you lose a lot of time in your life by not enjoying and appreciating the journey that gets you to your destination,
Yeah.
right? It's like big gaps of time in your life are taken away if you discount the journey. So
Mhm.
that I think is really important. And the growth that you achieve during your journey is just as important as any benefits that come from the success.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's one of the first things I would say to my younger self is at the time I needed to survive. And so
Mm.
I needed to think about point A to B to C. Um, but I would have made myself appreciate all of the work I was doing to get to point A to B to C.
Yes, because so much work has
Hmm.
been done. And, knowing now that with anxiety, which can be crippling, I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many different levels of it, but to believe in yourself
Hmm.
enough and to stay focused, to continue on in your education, to keep pushing forward, to not let your circumstances, knock you down so much that you just wanted to give up. That in itself says so much about you and your character, and that to your core, you were always the same person. I feel like, we evolve and we change and
Hmm.
we grow and we always are working to become the best version of ourselves. But
Hmm.
I feel like for me, I've always been like the same girl. I just feel like I was muted in a lot
Yeah.
of situations,
Yeah. So true.
And like now, Diana, I'm like, I'm going to be respectful and I am going to not just, pop off at the mouth, but I am not afraid to say the things that are on my mind.
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to share my opinion. And I'm really not afraid to let somebody know, like, when you're off, like, you might need to, take several seats, you know, stand up for myself, stand up
Yeah.
for myself. So, okay, so I have to say, family, you're here with me on Unapologetically D. I don't want to end this conversation, which is why we're going to come back for part two, but go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Before we do that, I wanted to give you, Diana, an opportunity. Let's leave this one open-ended. Like, what's something that you would want to tell to, somebody that is growing up, or not growing up, but starting off early on in their career or in their professional life and kind of blossoming into this world, especially now with like all of the things that are going on?
Yeah. I would say things might look really dismal right now, but if you really believe in yourself, and I know that sounds so cliche, believe in yourself, yay. But I think that if you have an understanding, a true understanding of who you are and what you want in this life, you will not let anything or anybody stand in the way to make it happen.
Mm,
And I have overcome insurmountable odds and have made things happen for myself that no one that I grew up with could have ever dreamed that I would have. I was supposed to be a statistic. I was
mhm,
supposed to be, somebody who was discounted, who was just another one of the numbers of the girls that, kind of ran off and never made anything with their life. And I refused to be a statistic. I remember literally thinking, I will not be one of those statistics. If I'm in a statistic, I want to be in the statistics that's like, wow, only 12% of black women did this, or only 15% of, girls that grew up in a single parent household did this, or whatever the case might be. I want to be in those statistics if I'm going to be a statistic. And
yep.
so don't ever let anyone tell you what your path is going to be. You have to, at some point, believe in yourself, have an understanding of where your strengths are and where you want to develop, because you might not be where you want to be, but
Mhm,
you have strengths and potential that can be developed that can get you to where you want to be. And the biggest thing is that you have to have that strength and confidence in yourself, because there are going to be times when the world does not support you,
mhm,
when your family and friends don't support you, when your boss and your colleagues don't support you.
yep.
And if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. You can be that person walking into that law office in New York with a beautiful view, wondering what you're doing here, but you made it happen. And I
Mhm,
think that is the biggest thing for people is like, do not give up, because when it gets hard, the people that succeed are the ones that push past that.
yep.
It was not easy for me to go to school and get a bachelor's degree and two master's degrees or any of that, with my family situations going on, with the way that I grew up, with having no money, none of
Mm,
that. It wasn't easy. And people say, oh, you think, oh, this and that, because you went to school and you did all that. No, going to school was not easy, especially under the circumstances that I went through, which there's a lot more that I could share about my early, my years after juvenile detention, which maybe we'll save for part two.
yeah.
But it's not easy.
Mhm.
And if you're looking for easy, then you might as well just give up now, because life is not easy. It's not going to be easy. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can come out of things and you can achieve things that you never would have imagined. I am 43 years old. And when I was 15 years old, I was literally homeless
Mhm,
with nobody,
mhm,
living with drug dealers.
mhm.
And I now work at one of the largest law firms in the world. I
Yes.
had no idea this was going to happen, and it did. But I worked really damn hard to get here, and that is achievable for anyone who really believes in themselves and who really puts the effort in.
Yep. Yes. 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 I have to see. Thank you. Thank you, Diana. And you know, I will say this. I will take it and add to it and say, for anybody that is at a stage in their life where they feel like they need to pivot, or they are in I need to reinvent myself or step into this new chapter. All of the things that Diana just said, take them, cut them out, copy, paste, insert here, because it is all about believing in yourself. And it is all about continuing to push forward and blocking out that noise, which is not going to be easy. Like you said, it's not going to be easy. If you think that there is an easy button, there ain't. This is not Staples.
We look for it. It's not there.
It's not there. It's not there. But I thank you so much, Diana. I mean, this conversation has got me. I mean, I have so many different ideas. But again, you're here with me and my beautiful guest, Diana Lauritson, on another episode of Unapologetically D. And we've just been talking about all kinds of things, life. This is real voices, real people. And my goal has always been to make a real impact. So again, I've said it a few times and Diana already told me yes. So we're going to do a part 2. But for now, we're going to go ahead and end this one. Thank you so much for being a part of the Unapologetically D family. Diana, I always ask all of my guests if there's anything else that they would like to say before we wrap it up. So I will do the same thing with you.
I would just say that I am really looking forward to round 2 because this has been a great conversation, and I feel like I was just getting warmed up. So
I'm ready
for the next go around.
I know. I'm so excited. Like I said, I just can't. My mouth, it just starts. And you know, there's something like when you just feel like it's authentic and you don't have to try and you're not searching for things. Like I looked at the first page of my notes. That's because it was just so normal and natural. So I can't wait for part 2. We're going to talk about getting that on the calendar very, very soon. Thank you, family, for joining us. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.